It's 1:20 a.m. on January 28th, 2023, in Walsall town center, a place where the hustle of daytime shoppers has long faded into silence. The market stalls, draped in weathered canvas, stand like silent sentinels under the cold, starless sky. A faint breeze carries the chill of winter, rustling discarded wrappers along the empty high street. Suddenly, the low hum of an engine breaks the stillness. A car's headlights pierce the darkness, their beams sweeping across shuttered shop fronts. Another vehicle follows closely, its presence deliberate, almost predatory. Inside these cars, a group of young men sit in tense silence, their faces shadowed but resolute. Their hands grip weapons, their minds locked on a single purpose. This is no chance encounter. This is the opening act of a tragedy that will ripple through Walsall, claiming lives and igniting a cycle of revenge that no one could contain. Welcome to the Crime Decoder. Today we unravel the heartbreaking saga of Bailey Atkinson and Connor Brookes, a story of loyalty, betrayal, and a relentless vendetta that left a community shattered. Buckle up. This is a case that will grip you to the core. Bailey Atkinson was only 21, a young man whose infectious smile and generous spirit left a mark on everyone he met. On that fateful night, he was strolling through Walsall's deserted high street, his arm linked with a female friend, their laughter echoing faintly past the darkened market stalls. To those who knew him, Bailey was a beacon of kindness, a loyal friend, a devoted son, and a protective brother who'd do anything for those he loved. But beneath his warmth lay a past he was desperate to leave behind. 2 years earlier, Bailey had uprooted his life from Coventry to Walsall, seeking a fresh start away from the gang culture that had already claimed too many around him. Police would later reveal that old rivalries, disputes rooted in Coventry's gritty streets, had followed him like a dark cloud. In Walsall, he worked hard to carve out a new path. He spent his days with close friends, stayed tight with his family, and found comfort in familiar spots like the town center's bustling high street. That night, he was doing nothing extraordinary, just enjoying a quiet Saturday evening, sharing stories with his friend under the glow of streetlights. But unknown to Bailey, others had been watching, waiting, and planning. Fate had been decided long before he stepped onto that pavement, and the trap was about to spring. The attackers were shockingly young, some still in their teens, but their actions carried the chilling precision of hardened criminals. 7 young men, united by a thirst for vengeance, had one name etched in their minds: Bailey Atkinson. Hailing from Walsall and nearby Bloxwich, this group operated like a well-oiled machine. Each member assigned a role in a plan that was anything but impulsive. At the heart of the plot was Patrick Brookes, 18, from Hunter Crescent in Walsall, described by prosecutors as a driving force behind the attack. Alongside him were Ronan McCulloch, 19, from Livingston Road in Bloxwich, Sonny Loveridge, 20, from Irvine Road, also in Bloxwich, both instrumental in orchestrating the ambush. Benjamin Wilkes, 18, from Guild Avenue in Bloxwich, joined the group, as did 3 17-year-olds, their identities shielded by legal protections. These younger members were no less committed, whether wielding knives, driving the stolen cars, or ensuring the group's escape. The groundwork for the attack was laid days earlier with the theft of 2 vehicles, a black Seat, Leon, and a Toyota Verso. These weren't random choices. Cars were selected for their speed and anonymity, stripped of number plates or any traceable features. CCTV footage later captured the group converging in a supermarket car park, their faces briefly illuminated as they huddled to finalize their strategy. West Midlands police confirmed this was no spur-of-a-moment act. It was a calculated hunt, fueled by a feud that had been simmering for months. It's possibly tied to an earlier assault involving a relative of one of the attackers. Though the exact motive remains elusive, the group's intent was clear. They weren't looking to confront Bailey. They were determined to end his life. That night, they set out in the stolen cars, their engines roaring with purpose. Ready to trap their target in a deadly game of cat and mouse? In the early hours of January 28, 2023, Bailey Atkinson became a hunted man in the streets he called home. CCTV cameras across Walsall town center captured the chilling pursuit, frame by frame. The stolen Seat, Leon, and Toyota Verso prowled the high street, their movements deliberate, almost choreographed. They circled, slowed, and closed in with terrifying precision, ensuring Bailey had nowhere to run. As he walked near the market stalls with his friend, the trap snapped shut. The Seat Leon swerved toward them, its headlights blinding, its tires screeching against the pavement. Bailey's friend screamed and fled in the opposite direction, while Bailey bolted, his heart pounding as he sprinted down the high street, past shuttered shops and empty stalls. The chase was relentless. The Seat Leon cornered him outside of Poundland, its engine growling as an attacker stepped out, weapon glinting in the streetlight's glow. Bailey ran again, his breath ragged, clutching a lamppost for balance as the car charged once more. But there was no escape. Within moments he was on the ground, surrounded by all 7 attackers. The assault was merciless, a frenzy of blades slashing through the night. Among the weapons was a 24 centimeters Rambo knife, its serrated edge inflicting catastrophic wounds. Bailey fought to survive, stumbling and crawling, but the gang struck again and again, their blows relentless. When the violence finally stopped, Bailey lay crumpled on the pavement, blood pooling beneath him in a dark, spreading stain. The attackers didn't hesitate. They piled back into the cars and vanished into the night, their taillights fading as quickly as they'd appeared. Witnesses, including Asda employees taking a break nearby, caught glimpses of the horror. One described the attackers as a swarm, their movements almost synchronized in their brutality. Bailey's body bore over 30 stab wounds, deep cuts to his back, arms and legs, some piercing vital organs. A post-mortem later revealed a staggering 65 separate injuries, each one a testament to the gang's ferocity. Rushed to Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, Bailey clung to life long enough to whisper his final words to police. "I'm going to die. Tell my mom I love her." At 2:55 a.m. he was pronounced dead, leaving behind a void that would never be filled. In the days that followed, Walsall's High Street became a place of mourning, transformed from a scene of violence to a shrine of remembrance. Where Bailey had fallen, flowers piled high against shop fronts, roses, lilies, and carnations in vibrant reds and whites, their petals trembling in the wind. Candles flickered in the dusk, their flames casting soft light on handwritten cards and photos of Bailey. In one picture, he grinned broadly, his eyes bright with life. Friends, family, and strangers gathered in quiet vigil, their faces etched with grief and disbelief, trying to make sense of the savagery that had erupted in their town. Through West Midlands Police, Bailey's family released a statement that cut through the heart. "Bailey was our kind-hearted and much-loved son, brother, and grandson. He was taken from us in the most brutal way, and we will never stop missing him." To them, Bailey was not a victim of gang violence or a statistic. He was a young man who had been fighting to build a better life, only to have it stolen in an instant. Social media overflowed with tributes, friends pouring out their love and memories. "You were a beautiful soul," Bailey one wrote. "Always there for us, no matter what." Another posted, "You gave love back tenfold. This doesn't feel real." A GoFundMe page set up to cover funeral costs raised over £700 in just days, a testament to the community's resolve to honor Bailey's memory. West Midlands Police increased patrols across Walsall, their presence a stark reminder of the violence as they urged residents to come forward with any information. Bailey's murder sparked one of the most complex investigations West Midlands Police had faced in years. The level of violence stunned even veteran detectives. This was no random stabbing, but a coordinated ambush executed with chilling precision. The killers had come prepared, armed with multiple weapons, and determined to leave no trace. But they underestimated the power of modern policing. Within minutes of the attack, the stolen Seat, Leon, and Toyota Verso were found burned out on grassland near Slater Street and Gough Street, their charred frames glowing in the night. This was the first clue, a reckless attempt to destroy evidence that only fueled the investigation. CCTV footage from across Walsall town center became the backbone of the case, capturing every moment of the killer's movements. Cameras showed the cars' paths from their theft days earlier to their deadly pursuit through the high street. Clear frames caught the suspects stepping out of the vehicles, their faces lit by the harsh glare of security lights, evidence they couldn't escape. Mobile phone data was equally critical, mapping out the group's rendezvous in the supermarket car park and their coordinated hunt for Bailey. Forensic teams scoured the burned-out cars, recovering traces of DNA and other clues that tied the suspects to the crime. Early morning raids swept through Walsall, Bloxwich, and Marston Green, leading to the arrests of Patrick Brookes, Ronan McCulloch, Sonny Loveridge, and Benjamin Wilkes. The three 17-year-olds were also detained, their youth doing little to shield them from the law. Two others, Enver Witter, 18, and a 16-year-old from Walsall, were briefly held but later cleared of all charges. Detective Inspector Jim Mahan, leading the investigation, called it a complex puzzle that demanded every tool at their disposal: CCTV, phone data, forensics, and witness statements, including accounts from ASDA staff who rushed to Bailey's aid. Police confirmed the motive was revenge, likely linked to an earlier assault involving a relative of one of the attackers, though specific details remain unverified. "This was a planned execution," Mahone said, "and we left no stone unturned." On May 24, 2024, Nottingham Crown Court delivered its verdict in one of Walsall's most shocking murder cases. The 7 defendants stood in the dock, their faces a mix of defiance and resignation. As they were convicted of Bailey Atkinson's murder, prosecutors presented an ironclad case, weaving together CCTV footage, mobile phone data, and forensic evidence to prove the attack was no random act, but a deliberate, premeditated hunt. They described the gang as operating like a pack of wolves, passing weapons between them to ensure Bailey had no chance of survival. The defendants denied their roles, but the jury saw through their claims, swayed by the overwhelming evidence. Judge Michael Chambers delivered a scathing condemnation, calling the attack a ruthless and cowardly act of violence that left Bailey with no opportunity to defend himself. Patrick Brookes, 18, and Ronan McCulloch, 19. Each received life sentences with a minimum term of 20 years. Sonny Loveridge, 20, identified as a key orchestrator, was handed a life sentence with a minimum of 23 years, reflecting his leading role. Benjamin Wilkes, 18, was sentenced to life with a minimum of 18 years. The 3 17-year-olds, 2 from Walsall and 1 from Marston Green, were each detained for life with minimum terms of 19 years. As the sentences were read, Bailey's family sat in the gallery, their tears a mix of grief and relief. Justice had been served, but the pain of Bailey's loss would linger forever. The convictions should have brought closure, a chance for Walsall to heal. Instead, they lit a fuse that would explode into more violence. Among Bailey's friends, grief turned to rage, and whispers of retaliation grew into a concrete plan. They weren't content to let the courts have the final word. They wanted to strike back at those connected to the Brookes family, to make a statement in blood. Reports later confirmed that this revenge was as calculated as the attack on Bailey, planned with chilling precision. 3 key figures led the charge: Jake Sandbrook, Byron Selleck, and Julian Falconer, all young men bound to Bailey by loyalty and loss. They were joined by Samuel Danks Petit, whose role was to ensure no evidence remained, no car, no weapon, no trace. The group scouted vehicles, settling on a stolen black Ford Focus, chosen for its anonymity and fitted with false plates to evade detection. Like the cars used in Bailey's murder, it was stripped of anything that could lead back to them. The weight of their plan was heavy, but their resolve was unshakable. They knew what they were about to do would change everything. On July 8, 2023, at 4:55 p.m., violence returned to Walsall streets in a brazen daylight attack. Connor Brookes, 20, and his friend Bradley Sladen were parked in a white van on Well Lane in Bloxwich, residential street alive with summer activity. Families strolled nearby, children laughed as they left school, and the sun cast long shadows across the pavement. Then, the stolen black Ford Focus appeared, its engine purring with menace. The car, meticulously prepared by Bailey's friends, rolled slowly past the van, its tinted windows hiding the danger within. In just 6 seconds, the passenger window slid down, and a double-barreled sawn-off shotgun emerged. A single blast shattered the afternoon's calm, the shot tearing through the van's driver's side. Connor was struck in the head, his body slumping against the window, his life extinguished in an instant. Bradley in the passenger seat felt the sting of shrapnel in his shoulder as he ducked for cover, narrowly surviving. The street erupted in chaos. Parents screamed, pulling children behind cars, unsure if more shots would follow. The Focus accelerated, its tires squealing as it fled the scene. Minutes later, it was driven to Worley Lane, where the shotgun was dumped in a bin bag, still carrying traces of the deadly strike. This was no random drive-by. Investigators quickly linked it to Bailey's murder, recognizing the chilling symmetry of revenge. Connor, just 20, was pronounced dead at the scene, his life another casualty in this relentless feud. Detectives knew from the start that Connor's killers had left a trail, and they were determined to follow it piece by piece. The stolen Ford Focus was the first breakthrough, spotted fleeing Well Lane at high speed. Less than an hour later, it was found abandoned on Worley Lane, its doors left ajar. Forensic teams descended, recovering gunshot residue, fingerprints, and crucial DNA evidence inside the vehicle. The sawn-off shotgun, dumped nearby in a bin bag, bore further traces of the crime, its barrel still warm from the blast. CCTV cameras across Walsall told the rest of the story. Detectives pored over hundreds of hours of footage, tracking the Focus from its movements earlier in the day to the seconds before the shooting. The car was seen circling the van multiple times, confirming the attack was a planned ambush, not a random act. Mobile phone data was the final nail in the coffin, linking Sandbrook, Selleck, Falconer, and Dank Spedit to the crime's planning and aftermath. Text messages, call logs, and location data placed them together before and after the shooting, their digital footprints undeniable. By mid-April 2024, West Midlands Police had built a watertight case. Combining CCTV, DNA, and digital forensics, the four men were arrested and charged with murder, attempted murder, and possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. Julian Falconer faced an additional charge of knife possession after being caught with a blade during his arrest in Dudley on August 2, 2023. The investigation was a testament to relentless police work, leaving no room for the killers to escape justice. On May 30, 2024, Wolverhampton Crown Court delivered its judgment in the brutal killing of Connor Brookes. The four defendants stood in the dock, their roles in the daylight drive-by laid bare. Jake Sandbrook, 23, from Fisher Road in Bloxwich, was identified as the driver of the stolen Ford Focus. He received a life sentence with a minimum term of 29 years. Byron Selleck, 20, of no fixed abode, was also sentenced to life with a minimum of 29 years. Julian Falconer, 20, from Wiley Close in Willenhall, a backseat passenger believed to have encouraged the shooting, received the same life with a minimum of 29 years. Samuel Dankspet, 21, from Buildwas Close in Walsall, who helped cover the killer's tracks by hiding the car and switching plates, was convicted of perverting the course of justice and jailed for 3 years. The court described the attack as a brazen and cold-blooded execution, carried out in broad daylight with no regard for the families and children nearby. Connor's family, devastated by their loss, sat in the gallery, their grief tempered by the weight of the sentences. But the question lingered. Would this justice bring peace, or would the cycle of violence find a way to continue? The murders of Bailey Atkinson and Connor Brookes left Walsall scarred, community caught in the crossfire of a feud that refused to die. Two young men, each with dreams, families, and futures, were reduced to names and headlines, their lives snuffed out by a relentless cycle of revenge. The sentences handed down were severe, decades behind bars for those responsible, but they couldn't undo the pain or bring back the lives lost. Flowers and candles still mark the spots where Bailey and Connor fell, silent reminders of a community's grief. This case is a stark reminder of how quickly violence can spiral, tearing through lives and leaving communities to pick up the pieces. Were the sentences enough to break this deadly cycle, or do they simply pause a feud that's waiting to reignite? Could more be done to stop this bloodshed before it claims another life? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below, and let's spark a conversation. If you're hooked on real crime stories, told with every detail and every fact, make sure to subscribe to the Crime Decoder and hit that notification bell. There's always another case, another story, another truth waiting to be uncovered.